with farting and falling over the whole time, but in fact, you seem to have agendas.
I am on the cusp of farting and falling over all the time.
Oh, this looks really good, you guys. Look at that. Look at those 3 faces.
Is that us?
Yeah.
It's us.
So there's a world where, podcasts are just on video feeds and it's just like an image like that the whole time, right?
Oh, yeah. I really like those. That's my preferred YouTube podcast.
Okay, but what if there was a way to actually get the video of it?
Like the faces of the people?
Yeah, like a live video of it, so you're not just listening and staring at a picture.
Oh, we could do it.
Wow.
I don't know if we should, though. I kind of like...
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good, too.
Yeah, I do like that. Oh, no, I like that. Each time that's happened, it's increased my pulse a tiny bit.
It's better. It's better. And Roman's there, too, which is nice.
So listen, are we just doing this thing, or is there audio we're going to queue up, or what are we doing?
I think it's just working.
Nice.
I think we can trust that it's just working.
We don't worry about intro music?
A couple of platforms. I've got intro music.
Oh.
We want to hear some intro? I can intro us.
Let's do it, because an interesting point of conversation after that.
Yeah. You're going to have to signal me or something when it's time to stop it.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, like that?
Yeah, sure. Oh wow, look at that extended intro before the riff.
Is this your song?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but you can hear it. That's me looping from years ago. Not as good.
Nice.
Okay. Wait,
is it
pause? It's great. Yeah. No, get it out of here.
I'm gonna fade it out.
Fade that out. Oh, excellent.
That fade didn't really work.
It's pretty abrupt fade.
Oh, okay. So, before we get into the whole ranch dressing of the whole event, Django, that file that I sent you of that audio right there.
Yeah.
That file was created 6 years ago, which when I stopped and thought about that, insane that I recorded that 6 years ago. But then what I realized is that is a slightly modified version that we played at the live event. So the original theme song is over 6 years old, probably 7 or 8 years old, which is bonkers to me.
And it's apparently the one that we play when we go live.
Oh yeah, we play it when we go live. We play it at our live shows. Mm-hmm. There's probably other channels, maybe podcasts. I usually use podcasts as a way to just listening to intro music at
audio podcasts.
Yeah. It's the only way
you can improve.
It's the only way you can get the audio intro to Challengers of the Unknown, or
Defenders of the Earth.
Yeah, it's the one that we love. Weekly Planet. There we go.
The Weekly Planet.
Hey everybody, welcome to A Comics Place presents a perfectly acceptable, albeit slightly different looking podcast.
Yes.
This is a comic book podcast brought to you from the cradle of nerddom civilization, Bellingham, Washington. Put on by 3 buddies who run a comic book shop in said university town. There's a part of me that's thinking, wow, right? 397 episodes. That's a lot of episodes. Coming up on 400. We're working up the rebrand for 400. Right?
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm in. I got 3 weeks. I can do it. We can new logos.
Well, sorry, not that extreme of a rebrand. Just probably new intro music, and the fact that it's video is a pretty large change to something that's been going on for 9 or almost 10 years.
Forever and ever. I'm going to draw new pictures of us. Sorry, I cut you off, Roman.
Oh, I just said a century.
Yeah, that's true. It feels like a century sometimes.
Yeah.
It's taken us 100 years to get this many episodes.
Yeah, it feels like that at times. So we're going to do a couple big shout outs here. And I'm assuming we're probably going to be getting a couple people tuning into this that haven't listened to the podcast. So we are a comic book shop, and we talk about all the comics that come out every week. Actually, we don't have enough time to talk about all of them, but we certainly talk about a lot of them. The ones that we liked or didn't like. And I am Jeff. I am Jeff.
I am Django.
I am Roman.
I am.
we're just kind of running into this, trying it for the first time in memory. I think maybe we've done live podcasts before during the Pando or something.
Yeah, we tried one or two, and I think we needed to really hone our chops.
Yeah, we needed to refine the craft. I'll tell you what I like about this is it's got a little clock on the top left corner that tells me how long we've been going.
Oh yeah,
which is
yeah. Can't stop until we're 42 hours and 45 minutes in.
Which is coincidentally when you get enough.
Yeah, yeah. We have some recurring characters on the podcast.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was getting to. Thank you. Yeah. So historically, up to this point, I wanted to just give some shout outs, which is what I had said. I want to give a big, warm thank you and hello to William Elmer, who is a regular weekly contributor to this podcast in the form of emails and voicemails. And a big shout out to Andrew Carlson, who's been editing the podcast historically and hasn't heard about the fact that this is a video thing now.
He commented on here just now and said, "Wait, are y'all actually live?"
Yeah, excellent. So, there goes not acknowledging the chat.
Well, that one felt pretty relevant.
Yeah, it did. So Andrew, great to have you here. We'll still get you an audio file to edit to put in a podcast, but for these video things, which we'll be doing weekly, and probably need to be more consistent about our recording times so that people can rely on getting it at a time. But yeah, you guys, Stream of Thought, Gone, jazz music, comic books.
Let me interrupt you with a voicemail.
Yes.
Yeah?
This is how we start many episodes of the Papcast.
Stepping on each other.
Well, that for sure.
Hello, and happy episode number 397, my friends. You guys doing your first live episode tonight? That's pretty cool. I feel like we experimented with this a little bit in the early pandemic days. A little bit spawned the book club. Am I remembering that right? So it's just a hallucination of early pandemic days. I don't know. You guys tell me.
Remember.
But that did get me thinking. We're far enough away, 5 years or so away from the start of the pandemic. And so it's just far enough where you kind of look back with rose-colored glasses. Live podcast, start of the book club are things that I look back on as fond memories of that time. Do you guys have any fond memories of the pandemic times? Have I asked this question before? I don't know. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Hey, Django, why'd you laugh? Because I think, not just because we held a phone up to play that. We haven't figured out how to get audio to go through this, so we will. But that's why I was internally laughing. But Django, why'd you laugh?
I laugh because a lot of people, present company included, were having a really good time, and I was probably at my absolute limit for stress for 9 months solid, and then just barely below it right after that.
In response to your question, Will, with the exception of the loss of life that happened on a catastrophic scale, and with the exception of a couple anxious times that I had wondering if I had the disease and how bad it would be, with those small exceptions, I think that home time, that pandemic time, was like one of the most crucial things to my development as an individual that has happened. Learning, I would say Django and I have been business partners for a long time at the comic shop, about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I would say that pandemic, which I guess was like 5 years ago now, so
half our time together
ago.
Yeah.
That was critical in, I think, like, we had a very solid business and friend relationship up until that point, but I think that period of time kind of catapulted us into what I consider to be a very elite group of business partners.
Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello,
exactly, Jeff those things, Scooby and Shaggy. So yeah, that was a huge plus. I, started recording a podcast about Batman that I finished with Django and Roman and Justin and some other friends. And
audio only
continues to be one of the artistic endeavors that I am most proud of having done. Django and I took up delivering comics in a car.
That is my enduring positive memory is
It was
driving through the
so
county
good.
every single Friday
So
and
good.
finding new places to pee every day.
I went through so many audiobooks and podcasts and developed so many skills that I didn't have before. Let's just say I got good at growing personal herbs for my own kitchen from, like that was amazing. So yeah, anyway, my learned about alone time, personal space, not maximizing the schedule. So many things. Roman, what about you though? How'd you feel about it? You hated it, right?
Oh man, it was awful. No, I was very lucky and privileged thanks to your guys' work. I got all the when I was furloughed, got all the benefits could at a financially in 2020. I did the best I've ever done financially in my life with the stimulus checks and what we got from unemployment, and it was fantastic. Getting a preview of what it would be like to be retired with a fantasy retirement. I'll never be able to do, but read Moby Dick, read Akira, all 6 volumes.
Good book.
I was part of that. There was an online book club, which I read Moby Dick for. And creatively, that's the last time I wrote anything really good, because for that club with reading Moby Dick, I wrote a lost chapter of Moby Dick that fits right in to a certain section of the book.
Wow.
And that was well received. But that's not
awesome.
as impressive as it sounds, because some of Melville's chapters in Moby Dick are, I think the shortest one is, and he calls them chapters, but the shortest one is half a page.
Adam had them.
So mine was, a full page.
I'll say that I remember you doing that and it sounded awesome. I will say that the Comics Place Book Club is a group that still meets, and I am so thrilled that that is something that exists just for our store. And realizing that it started during the pandemic is a cool thing. But to put it better, I think the most valuable thing for me going up to the pandemic, I didn't really have any awareness of my need to establish some boundaries between personal life and like work life, or, the importance of having some alone time and chilling. So the fear of losing that and realizing how important it was and going back to work in a job where we kind of dictate our own schedules and stuff was a great lesson for developing more healthy boundaries between that stuff.
Yeah, the heart, until I actually had COVID in 2022 or whenever it was, the hardest thing for me of the pandemic, and again, I know I'm speaking from a place of privilege, was having to go back to work at the museum and be around strangers from all over the country. That was the most stress-inducing thing.
I can't believe that the comic shop that we own and run was closed for as long as it was. That's insane
How long
in
was it?
my
Was it-
mind.
Was it over a year?
It was 18
It's like
months, I
17
believe.
or 18 months.
Yeah.
I believe it was 18
Because as soon
months.
as we decided that we were pretty much ready, then we realized that we couldn't do it and had to build like a software bridge to be able to be open. And that's what started Comic Shop Assistant. But guys,
That's not why you came here.
did you come here to listen to us talk about COVID?
No, that's a crazy tangent.
Thanks for the
Thank
prompt,
you so
Will.
much, Will. Thank you so much, Will. Anybody listening, anyone tuning into home, you could probably throw comments into the chat and we'll get to them near the end of the episode. But what we love and what we look forward to and what lights up our lives and other L's is getting emails. And you can send them to us at the email address that Django will have by episode 400 for everybody.
Guaranteed this time. That's a Django guarantee.
But until then, you can still get them to jeff@thecomicsplace.com. So send your emails, your questions, your thoughts, your feelings, all of it above to jeff@thecomicsplace.com. That was that. Now we're going to talk about comic books. Django, you weren't here last week because you were deflowering islands.
Yes.
How I think we had one of our best episodes yet.
I can't wait to listen to it.
you
I just
really-
read the comics today.
You really need to. I called you out for making sure that you put the scores in as you listen, so that'll be very good. My mom was thrilled about the episode.
Nice.
But a theme of it and a theme of the previous podcast, which is 2 weeks before that, was holy goodness gracious, we are living in just riches of amazing comic books right now. There are so many good comic books. And
Yes.
specifically, the last 2 episodes we recorded, we had giant stacks. And the last episode, spoilers to you, Django, but Roman and I each gave out at least 3 10s, maybe
Yeah.
4.
4.
It was an
Yeah.
amazing week of comics. As you know, it was my Dennis Camp week.
Yeah, I really enjoyed a bunch of the comics I read from last week. I was blown away at just how many came out and how many I was excited for after being gone for. I think I actually missed 2 weeks of comics. I think I was gone for
Um,
2 Tuesdays. I don't know. Who's to
Yeah,
say?
no, you were. But
Who's
to
to
get
say?
Abs Marman and Ask Cry Eve coming out on the same
Yeah.
week every month is amazing and kind of nearly 2 guaranteed 10s for me. So yeah, all of that to say, I believe I signed off last week's audio podcast, which you'll have to hunt down, Video Hounds, was like, I hope next week's as good as this week was, or had as many comics as this week does. And I'm going to tell you, folks,
Don't. Nah.
it came for us. It came for us. Love comic books, but it was a smaller week, which had to happen at some point because we were getting insane volumes of comics coming in. So that to say, smaller week. I don't have a 10 this week, spoilers, but I do have some things I'm excited to talk about with you guys. I'm not sure how you feel about patriotism, given that July 4th was just a thing. I just realized that probably they put this comic out this week because of that. But we've got a Captain America, a new comic by Chip Zdarsky, art by Valerio Schiti, and colors by Frank Martin, who halfway through the issue, I was like, I think this is Frank Martin coloring it.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't mean that in a super positive way, but for some reason I was like, this type of coloring is happening a lot in comics now, and I don't love it. And I was like, I wonder if it's Frank Martin, and it is.
What is it about the coloring that tipped you off?
I can't really put words to it. It's a kind of muddied inking, like a sort of smudgy looking. I can't.
It's
remember.
like backlit. So some of it's backlit. Right?
It kind of reminds me of like Brian Hitch art. Like it's just kind of smudgy in a certain way.
Huh.
It also really reminds me of like the Krakoan era of art. So like everything that was going on with RB Silva and Pepe Larraz during that period, there was some colorists that kind of rose to prominence. And yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, yeah. So we got a new Captain America book. And actually, despite what I just said, I was a pretty huge fan of the art in this book. Chip Zdarsky, boys.
Chip
Love Chip Zdarsky. And for a creator, he's the writer on this, who, in my mind, kind of I became aware of as the artist for Sex Criminals, a very funny book. But he handles books that almost feel like they could be a little dour, like he writes more serious things more often than I would expect for somebody who I consider to be as zany as he is.
Well, right. Like comedy is not that far from drama. And sometimes you see a comedian who's able to really get you off guard in a dramatic role. Right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of in acting and in storytelling, the sort of the beats that you use for comedic effect are similar to the beats that you can use for dramatic effect.
That tracks.
And I think he just kind of unlocked that at some point and realized that he could sort of shift it over and be super dramatic.
What'd you guys think of this issue? And I'll say it's nice to have the cover sitting there on my screen while we're talking.
I thought that I was super confused about when this was happening.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to talk about that with you boys.
And I also thought I don't really love that new costume.
Ooh, I do like the new costume.
And weirdly, I also thought I kind of like the light sources in this coloring. So we're diverging, Jeff. We need to hang out some more or something.
I really like the coloring in the flashback scenes. Really love that. And the thing that I was having more of an issue of with this is almost maybe the inker, which is in fact Valerio Schiti doing their own inking. But Roman, what did you think of this?
I liked it. And I agree with you. I like the art. I don't like the coloring. And it made sense in the beginning of the issue because it's around 9/11. But the rest of it, it's Captain America. It shouldn't be dark and muddy the whole time because his whole thing is like Superman. It's about hope, and that's why I prefer the flashback coloring too. That was better. It was. I had to keep reminding myself that okay, it's sliding timeline of comics. So nowadays in the Marvel main 616 world, Cap woke up, was taken out of the ice apparently, I guess, right after the Iraq War, looks like.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, instead of 1963 or whatever it was during Vietnam. So yeah, I had to keep reminding myself, okay, Cap doesn't know about Vietnam, or he knows about it but wasn't around.
Kind of movie timeline, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's almost like they should every 15 years or so release a one shot at Marvel that kind of like Captain America, Punisher, Magneto, like updates their origin for the sliding time scale that things kind of move through, which is to say that like, World War II events in comics have sort of become Vietnam or Iraq War events in comics for character origins and that sort of thing, because they want things to feel, grounded in today, which is interesting.
So they don't have to do it for Magneto because he's got the built-in thing. He should always have been a teenager in the Holocaust, because they did that thing in the 70s where he was he was reduced to a baby. So they can always use that to explain, well, how come he's not, 90?
Interesting.
I mean, not always.
Yeah.
At some point that falls apart.
Magneto's specific background and character is a little bit more tied to World War II. Yeah, you're totally right. But the timeline stuff that was happening in this, there were certainly some of that sliding timeline stuff that added to some of the confusion. But what I thought was the thing that caused me to kind of go through it all a second time was we are following a character throughout a quarter of the issue that seems to have a very similar backstory to Steve Rogers, but is not Steve Rogers. And as you are going through him, ultimately what seems like becoming a Captain America, a super soldier, you are questioning whether or not it is Steve Rogers or not. With orange hair, even though Steve doesn't have orange hair. And then there is a moment that gives away that it is a different person. But yeah, it was just kind of confusing that whole time, because I wasn't sure. I was pretty sure that it was not Captain America, but it seemed like maybe it was also. And the narration was relatively confusing for that, because it was like Steve narrating in a journal over this kid. Anyway.
Yeah. A little goofy there, and maybe not a problem if it's on purpose.
Well, right? It was clearly on purpose to me.
Well, but like partway through, they say the kid's name,
right?
Which sort of breaks you out of that.
Well, to me, the moment that gave it away is when he's in the hospital after he's been beaten up by the general. There's a book on his bedside table that is Captain America.
Okay.
So it clearly makes it after RCap, but you can see that they're doing it to make this overlap. But yeah, apparently it's like a 9/11, post 9/11 Captain America character.
Yeah, the first page is him watching 9/11.
Oh, I didn't realize that was 9/11. But you're right. I did think that looked like the Twin Towers, but I was like, yeah, but there's only one. But it's because the other one's falling.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I like, and his shield is different. It has a extra white circle around the star.
Yeah, that's true. It's going so yeah, but as we're hanging out with Cap throughout this, it is right after he's woken up from the ice. So we are still in the past. So yeah, that also kind of added to some of the confusion and the time displacement that the reader was feeling. I think it's going to be very interesting to see these two Captain Americas, and even though we've kind of done it with US Agent and stuff, but I think where it exists in timelines is pretty interesting. but also it does suffer from that. If this takes place closer to that time, which is not the present day moment, because we've never met this character, it does make us or me think that nothing super significant can happen with him.
Yeah. I just had a hard time with that, with the timeline, because it just means a lot of other things, because this is before he joins the Avengers, which means all the Avengers adventures have happened since 9/11. The
Avengers Adventures should be a series.
Yeah, I'll call him.
Give
I'll
him
give
a
Marvel
call.
a call.
David.
Yep. Hey, David. It's Django. Yeah, I'm on speakerphone. We're on a podcast right now.
Django, that's like
David?
5 or 6 seconds we'll never get back in
I
our
think he hung up on
phone
me,
ever.
Jeff.
Yeah,
I think he hung
okay.
up on me.
Okay.
They can skip over it. It's just live.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
Yeah, we'll put a timestamp in there so you can skip ahead 5
See you in the
seconds.
future.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'll give it a couple more issues. I think my record for reading Captain America new releases is probably 5 or 6 issues in a row, if I had guessed. So I'd like to see Chip Zdarsky beat that for me.
I need to hear Roman's opinion, because Roman is a much more seasoned Captain America man.
I love Captain America. I really liked in this how Zdarsky, the conversations that Steve had with Thunderbolt Ross, with Reed Richards, and with the traumatized veteran that he confronts, the guy that's going to do a terrorist attack, and Steve talks him down.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Yeah, just the respect, and it felt genuine. The conversation, how Steve shows him, a fellow military man, shows him the respect of being that and their comrades, even though they've never met.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really thought that was really well handled. And then the whole thing with Reed was really well handled, and Reed, admitting that, my dad thought you were the greatest. And I've had this Captain America action figure, ever since I was a kid.
I love, and this to me is like also kind of where Chip Zdarsky, even with one issue, is making it clear that he's an advanced Captain America writer in my mind, because that action figure thing comes up and Reed's like, yeah, I used to have an action figure of you growing up. But the thing Steve fixates on is, did they ever make a Bucky action figure? And he's like you bet your ass they did. And it's like, okay. Yeah, I think I hold Captain America comics in a very high regard, or I expect a lot from them to be good. And that might be crazy, because I would say the percentage of great Captain Americas versus the other is quite small. It's hard to write a really good one, but when he's done super well, like Superman, it's easy to write a bad Superman comic and a bad Captain America comic, and it's difficult to write one that really gets to the essence of what makes those characters feel like superheroes.
Yeah.
And especially now, where the government and military and all that stuff, like I hear it and I'm just like, I don't want to.
Easy to bounce off of a story about something that puts a bad taste in your mouth.
It's always really impressive if you can walk the line to make this character feel and be great and inspire you, and not feel like it's a patriotic act because he's Captain America. I think there's a lot of misconception about the patriotism of his comics, and there doesn't need to be. So Brubaker, anyway, I loved this first issue, Roman, basically for the same reasons you mentioned. Like, I loved his essence. I really liked the conversation with he and Reed that lasted a portion of the issue for sure.
Did you like the Jack Kirby cameo in there?
Well, I didn't see that, Django.
Right there, buddy. When Reed lets his plastic down,
I did really like
Jack Kirby
that bit too. Yeah, he, yeah. So anyway, it was probably my favorite comic of the week. But Roman, it sounds like you're also in a similar camp. You dug it quite a bit.
Yeah, and to build on what you said, it's because one of the misconceptions about Cap is that it's just knee-jerk patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
And and when he's written well, he doesn't represent a certain administration or anything. He represents the Constitution and the ideals that the country was founded on. supposedly founded on. And this will be interesting because if you think about the timeline, well, like in the 70s, Steve Englehart did all these great stories where Cap was disillusioned with America because of Watergate, Nixon, and Vietnam. And that's what eventually led to him becoming Nomad. And now,
Right.
well, if you do this, if you update the timeline, well, now he could become Nomad if they wanted to. He could become Nomad because of the current administration, because he's so disillusioned with that.
Right. That Nomad whole bit, I only really know about through you talking to me about it. It's a bit of a blind spot to me. And if I had to guess, it's a blind spot to a lot of other people.
Probably, yeah, because there's been, a couple other Nomads since then that took up the costume. In fact, Bucky Barnes was one of them, I think.
So I'm interested
scores?
in scores from folks. So Captain America #1, Chip Zdarsky, Valerio Schiti, Frank Martin. I'm very excited to keep reading this. Tapped into something really awesome. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yep.
I was going to give it a 7. And then Roman reminded me about that conversation he had with the guy who was strapped with the bombs. And I remembered that picture of Jack Kirby. And so I'm going to go 7.5.
Nice.
Cool. I'm going to go a 9.
Nice. Excellent work, boys. So yeah, that was maybe my highest score of the week, but I did read a handful of other things. But listen, I threw Cap out there. Gentlemen, do you want to make some decisions about where we go next?
Boy, I read almost nothing from this week, but I did read Illuminati #1.
Yeah, Illuminati #1. Roman, did you read this book?
No.
Okay, well, I'm surprised because of the creative team. That said, the cover being an homage to, like, is it a DMX album? Or is it 50 Cent?
Oh, it totally is. Yep.
It's a hip hop album cover. And it, as such, looks, and no shade, because I love the creative team and I love the artist and I love, the covers, looking at future issues. But being a hip hop from the 90s album homage made me kind of think it looked like a lower quality book. This, however, was written by Brian Edwards Hill, who did American Carnage, some Wildstorm stuff that we loved. And I think I'm forgetting one other one that really
didn't he do I Am Batman? And so there was another one that we really liked.
He particularly did the Michael Cray Wildstorm things we loved.
Was it the American
Carnage?
You said that. Yeah.
Anyway, he's a writer that I like a lot. But he doesn't do a ton of comics at this point, and he's pretty involved in like TV and movies as well. So he's writing this, and then the penciler is Dennis Cowan, and the inker is Bill Sienkiewicz. And then
heavy hitters. Those.
Did this come in after Tuesday?
No.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah, colored by Marco Lesko. And then interestingly, it's presented by Charlemagne the God. Django, are you familiar with who that is?
No.
He is a radio personality.
Okay.
He's very prominent as that, but very tied into like the music industry and hip hop and stuff. So he's, probably kind of like what Howard Stern used to be.
Okay.
Or something like that. So, but also YouTube, they do videos of all that. So anytime a new artist has an album come out, there's a very good chance he'll be interviewed by Charlemagne the God. So he's, I guess this was his germ of an idea, and then passed on to Brian Edwards Hill, and then Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz. That's just a crazy number of names for a book that went pretty quickly. But the art in it, the Dennis Cowan, Bill Sienkiewicz art, I actually believe Dennis Cowan did, and maybe Sienkiewicz as well, worked on the Michael Cray book with him. But this is an art style that at first I didn't appreciate that much. It's kind of sketchy and liney. And Sienkiewicz can be way out there as an artist. When he's an inker, he kind of reins it in a little bit. But it's still pretty out there. But it was after talking to Django and Roman a number of years ago on the podcast that I started to look at it differently. And, I think at first it looked kind of dated, and now I love it. And it's very detailed, and, faces can be a little janky at times, but it is, I really like this creative.
He is so good.
Yeah.
Specifically Sienkiewicz is so good at knowing where to be
Yeah.
and how to be.
And these, you know, Sienkiewicz has inked Cowan quite a few times.
Oh, like
So,
since The Question or before.
yeah, so they have a language all their own. So the art is amazing. But Django, the story is a little bit up your alley, I would think. How'd you feel about it?
I like the story quite a bit. It's a pretty straightforward setup of a sister who comes to LA to find her sister who is dead, and she wants to solve. Well, yeah, I guess she, by the end, she wants to solve who killed her sister. Her sister died of an overdose, which doesn't seem like her, and she's just sort of in the world of record producers and people giving her warnings about powerful people. And then on top of all that, she's seeing the ghost of her sister. The ghost of her dead sister is appearing to her every once in a while in little flashes. So we just have, like, you know, weird rich people with veiled threats and offers, and scared normal people who aren't the rich people. And
And
yeah,
blood and maybe supernatural
blood.
stuff?
Something's got to be supernatural in there. I
Yeah.
really like there's the shot where the guy cuts his hand and drips his blood on the owl, and then the very next page is a bottle of whiskey getting poured.
Oh, nice. It's a little bit of that Brian Bolland in there.
Yeah, a little movie style transition.
Yeah.
But yeah, AWA tends to have books that I dismiss right out of the gate, and almost every time I read them, I'm like, oh no, that's a really good comic. And I couldn't tell you why I'm kind of blind to them until I read it.
Their output has slowed down quite a bit compared to their first like 2 years of publication. But yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said, Django. I murder mystery crime noir books are a thing that I've read way more of, being close to Roman and Django all these years, but isn't something that has always organically been a thing I care a lot about. However, I love there's a line of dialogue in here where there's maybe a guy we can trust talking to the sister, and both sisters are very talented musicians, the dead one. And he's, you know, sort of like, here's what's going to happen. These people are going to tell you that you're amazing. Like, they're going to tell you you're beautiful. They're going to make you famous. And then you're like going to get hooked on drug, you know, all these kind of shady then things happen. And then, you know, you're going to die or something, which is giving kind of the conceit of the fear of this book, which is like, you know, record labels sucking the life out of artists and using them for money, and then kind of moving through them all. So that is way up my alley, and a thing that I've thought a lot about and care a lot about. And then all of that combined with the fact that it's called Illuminati, and in the last 2 weeks I've listened to the album Illmatic more than anything in the world, and am in love with Nas. So you know, that was all good. But yeah, I like this. I like the art. It didn't blow me away at any point, but I want to like every single person involved in this. So
yeah, I'm in for the long run. I'm gonna give this one a gosh, what am I gonna give this? What should I'm gonna give this an 8. I think I think it's 8 worthy.
I'm going 8.5. It's exactly what I want from a comic book. Not more, but it's there.
Nice.
Wow. I look forward to reading it.
Yeah, you should check it out, Roman. It was good.
You know, there is maybe once a year, twice a year, you get a book that seems very about the music industry, and I love when that happens.
Yeah.
Roman, what do you got on the docket, buddy?
Well, you know, I'm willing to bet this week's issue of the Godzilla one-shots from Marvel is going to be the best Godzilla one-shot from Marvel, because it's written by Jason Aaron and drawn by Aaron Kuder.
Who's he with?
Is this Godzilla versus, or is it Godzilla in the
Thor.
Cities? Okay.
No, Marvel. It's Godzilla versus Thor.
Okay.
And it's Aaron Kuder and Jason Aaron. And it's great because the other ones you weren't quite sure where in continuity or if they were in continuity. Jason Aaron totally makes this a story that takes off from the end of his Punisher series, where the Punisher became the fist of the beast.
Yeah.
So he actually works Godzilla into this. And well, it's not much of a spoiler because it's in the first couple pages. That organization, what's the name of this organization? It's not the hand. It's I can't even find it now. But basically, that priestess, they come up with a new plan since Frank Castle failed them and they kicked him out. They make Godzilla the fist of the beast. And reanimate him in this awesome way in the beginning and send him to start murdering people. And Thor catches wind of it and comes down to save Tokyo or whatever city they're in, to save the humans. So it's just Thor and Godzilla fighting, and Godzilla got some mystical stuff added. And through means, Godzilla ends up in Asgard, laying waste to Asgard.
Okay, so that sounds like way better than the other ones, which I have read and didn't enjoy much, and then didn't read this one without realizing that it was Jason F. and Aaron. Yeah,
me too. I've read all those Godzilla ones because I'm obligated to as a Godzilla fan, but yeah, they've all been pretty meh. This one is awesome. The battle is awesome. The art is awesome. The horrible things. I mean, Sif gets like radioactive Godzilla breath to.
Who did the art?
Cooter.
Aaron Cooter.
Aaron Cooter. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing. And Thor does some really cool stuff. Tries to punch through Godzilla's head.
Wow. Okay. I'll definitely read it.
And the end is amazing. I don't want to give away too many things, but it's the best Godzilla book Marvel's going to do.
So what do you give it?
Boy. God. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. The last page is beautiful. You know what? I didn't think I had a GUI this week, but I think I do.
Roman, you dog.
Godzilla versus Thor, #1. Jason Aaron Cooter.
Django, you intentionally chose the most pixelated image you could find, or did you say that was like a filter?
It's censored. I don't want to get us taken off of YouTube or Facebook. Well, like you got to squint if you want to see the really dirty bits of the gooey
listeners, the Gooey Duck clam. That's the Gooey Duck is synonymous with a perfect score rating, particularly from Roman Stotlos. So wow, this one gets a perfect 10, but it sounds like it as a Godzilla fan. And then Aaron and Cooter, holy shit.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, it's amazing. You guys got to read this.
I will. Yeah.
Look at that cover.
Oh, he does what he wants. Okay, that's excellent. So Django, I'm curious. You saw some of the books I read this week, but from what it sounds like to me is you caught up on 2 weeks worth of comics. I wonder what are some of the books from this week that you read?
Well, I read Naked Aggression. Yeah. And I started reading Dr. Worthless hardcover.
Let's talk about Gehenna Naked Aggression.
All right. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Django, Roman, did you read Gehenna?
I did not.
Okay.
All right. It's a short read. And I think
it's quick.
Maybe it's short because I'm pretty sure I've read it before.
Where and how?
I think part of this was it in like one of those Image Horizons or something along those lines?
Maybe.
Like I have a pretty good, either that or it's just exactly the same story as something else, which, it's a kind of an action movie. No shade if it's a really similar story, but I feel like I've read this in the last 9 months or so.
Okay. Well, it's probably our listeners haven't.
So it's Patrick Kindlon and
the Kindlon
Maurizio Rosenwig with colors by Matteo Vattani. And it is a super badass action chick saving a little boy whose dad is a mobster from something, or she's kidnapping him. I wasn't really sure. And then we flash, like by the end of it, we get to the detective who is tracking her down. And the detective seems very good at deducing things and also very bad at hiding her nipples.
Yeah, there is areola coming out of shirts. It's not nipples, but there's areola in a lot of things.
There's a lot of pointy ends. It's a very sexy book from like a lot of angles.
The like second to last page shows a preview page of the next issue, but it's uncolored, so it's just black and white and inks. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, and the coloring in this issue is totally fine. Yeah, I didn't dislike that at all. But particularly, I think this art really does shine in its like raw ink form.
Yeah.
Django, you know I got a complex history with Patrick Kindlon.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You sure do. And you loved Frontiersman.
Oh, I liked Frontiersman.
Yeah.
I didn't finish it, but I don't think Patrick did either.
This this is it's just fun though, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not here for the plot necessarily. You're here for the fast and also the furious of it.
Well, so Patrick Kindlon was one of the people who was in that first wave of Black Mask books. Did he work with Matthew Rosenberg on a book? Maybe not. I don't know.
I can't remember.
But I
can't
associate
remember.
him with Tyler Boss and Matthew Rosenberg. But
Yeah.
famously, his like third series or something, There's Nobody There or There's Nothing Here or something like that, came
Mhm.
after Black Mask. And at the very end of it, he did a full page write up, as he generally does at the end of his first issues of a series. And I don't even remember the details of it, but it was like very disparaging to like comic fans and kind of like convention culture.
Yeah, I think he didn't like the promotions part of publishing a comic and going to
Yeah.
conventions and stuff.
And I read that and it was kind of off-putting and a bummer to me as somebody who like cares a lot about people's feelings and stuff and also has a lot of opinions on how to build a brand. But I did like Frontiersman, but Frontiersman had this weird thing of like, this is the best book, and in every issue we're going to say like the best book on the stands for X number of weeks or for number of issues, and like it was canceled after 6 or 7 issues or something. Anyway, I read this issue and wasn't totally blown back by it, but I then had to examine my biases. And I went in and started researching this guy to make sure that like I wasn't throwing extra shade somewhere it didn't need to be.
Right.
And, you know, he's got podcasts, he's in a band. And I enjoyed listening to him talk. And I would
Nice.
like to talk to him one day. And he does seem kind of like a butthead. But
not a deal breaker butthead.
not a deal breaker butthead.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
not
hearing.
that kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this book caused me to sort of unpack some unintentional biases,
Mhm.
and I liked this pretty good. I didn't love it. I did like the art. There was nothing bad about it by any means, but there wasn't anything that like super grabbed me about it. It was fun to see this art and this, it is sexy, violent art, but it's divided into like several chapters and it went really quick and, it ends kind of abruptly. So I'm curious about it, but to me, it seems like the kind of book that I'll wait to see what Django says about number 2 about.
It was in the Image anthology. There was a handful of
Nice.
pages in there. Holy cow. Do I have a brain that can't let go? A sexy girl saving a little kid.
It's just that top arc of the areola is what sticks it in your brain.
Oh man, for me it's the throwing dudes through walls and making the kid work to help her save him. Like, hey, snap out of it, push that desk up against the door, dipshit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I love that. It really tickles me when somebody's like training their kidnapped victim to save themselves while they're shooting their bodyguards
Yeah.
and stuff. Like one of my favorite things and tropes, I guess. Yeah.
Well, what do you
Yeah,
give
I like
it then?
tropes, Jeff.
I love it, and I
Um,
love you.
I would give this one solid 8. I think it was
Nice.
pretty good. There's a lot more going on here on my end when I'm trying to track and display and switch, and it's cool. It's cool. I got it. What do you give it?
It's good because I work with a perpetually low bar of expectation for you. So I gave it a 7.5.
Nice. Pretty
and-
close to the same page, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Roman, Bring on the Bad Guys, Green Goblin, number
I
1.
wanted to bring that up to you, Jeff, because it's starring your favorite villain.
Yes, and Django maybe also read this, but I knew Roman did.
No.
Without having talking to him, I just know if there's a Green Goblin issue written by the Guggenheim, Roman and I are both going to read it. This is the second issue in this miniseries of Bring on the Bad Guys, which in reading the final write-up in the first issue, I learned is a throwback to a thing from like the 80s.
70s.
Bring on the Bad Guys. Do you want to just briefly tell me what that is?
It was an early Marvel graphic novel that was just a collection of first appearance origin stories of various bad guys, Doctor Doom, Mephisto, the Abomination, I think. And I remember my mom buying it for me when I was a little kid at the Valley River Mall in Eugene, Oregon. And because I was so taken with the cover, I was like, "Mom, what is this? I gotta have this. What is it? I gotta have it." And it was called "Bring On the Bad Guys," and it I think, was it this issue? One of the issues. It's not this issue. I think the ad for this is a reproduction of the cover of that graphic novel where like Doom is on the side, and I think him or somebody else is reaching toward the viewer.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really surprised that all these years later, all of a sudden it's a thematic event for the summer.
Well, and it's not like an event, you know, in the sense of things like tying into it, but it is just
In
a
my
weird
mind,
little.
it's an event.
Well, right. And I don't mean to disparage where you're coming from, buddy. But you know, it's Guggenheim, who is a writer who's been around for a long time, doesn't write many high-profile books, and yeah. So in reading that first issue and then reading the backup, I was like, okay, cool. So they're doing a collection of one-shot stories, you know, loosely narratively tied together, and it's featuring the same villains, and it's all done by the same writer, which I think is an interesting conceit, and it all kind of ties into Mephisto, who was a part of the first one. And the first issue was Doctor Doom, which by all counts I should love. And it was pretty good. And this one is Green Goblin, who I absolutely love. Maybe my favorite villain. And it was a pretty good little Green Goblin story. But I think that where it's fallen short for me on both issues is that they are both attempting to sort of tie into some narrative thing that's going to connect all of them, and in doing so it has made each issue feel like it stands on its own less, and by the nature of the stories of each issue it does seem like they should be standing on their own. Like this is a throwback to some like early Norman Osborn stuff becoming Green Goblin, and I don't remember exactly the Doom one, but it was similar. So yeah, the cover is gorgeous. Yeah,
art is gorgeous.
I love getting to spend time with a Green Goblin issue, and there was nothing I would criticize about it because of that. But in terms of maybe what I was hoping, it did fall short a little bit there. So Roman, I'm curious, we weren't on last week. How have you felt about the Doom issue and this one? And did you like this issue?
I liked it well enough. I agree that they didn't really need to do, you know, come up with a story through line for these one shots. I mean, the original graphic novel didn't have a through line,
right?
And it does feel a little forced having this mystical device that and this new character that Mephisto is a disciple of Mephisto, and tying things together. Because you could have just done that without them just have these stories. One of the things I dug about this was that I think this is new to Norman Osborn, that, you know, when Harry was a little kid, Norman made a deal with the devil, with Mephisto, to help gain his power, the Green Goblin's power. And I don't think that's ever been mentioned before. I think that's a new thing in this issue, and I like it.
I like Mephisto, but I haven't read too many stories where he was a central part. Like, I feel like I don't have a full painting of the Mephisto picture. But anytime I have engaged with him, I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't think they use him as much as they used to, especially in the 60s and 70s, into the 80s. But yeah, some stories say he's Marvel's devil, others say he's an aspect of the devil in Marvel Comics.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I like the art, and I like to sort of take a retro little Green Goblin story, and then you just get these really wonderful pages of like classic Green Goblin costume art. So for me, you know, a lot of comics is wanting to engage and feel like I did about them when I was a kid. What do you got, Roman? Django?
Guggenheim only wrote the very tail end, the Mephisto part.
I
It
didn't
looks like
know that.
Ethan S.
Oh,
Parker and
yeah.
Griffin Sheridan wrote the main part.
Okay,
And
okay.
Matteo Delafonte wrote or drew it. And this main art, like I didn't read this book, but it's got like Alan Davis, Peter Snaberg look to me that I really, really like. I don't even know that I could explain to you what it is about those two that go together for me and why I feel like this belongs in the same family, but I'm a huge fan. I want to see this guy do more.
Yeah, there's a before you turn the page and get to that great full page shot of the Green Goblin flying on his glider and laughing, and he's got a very unique laugh. There's just a really nice panel with Norman opening up and the cameras behind him. Norman opening up a locker or a cabinet,
Yeah.
and just the way the Goblin costume and the bombs and the bag and the boots are all situated there. That's really nice.
Yeah. It really scratches that IKEA organization porn thing.
Yeah, nice
I've got.
composition.
Roman, what did you give Bring on the Bad Guys Green Goblin #1, the second issue in this little mini series?
Before I say that, another thing about the art, there's a couple great homage panels to, I don't know what issue it was, but an issue of the Green Goblin was dragging Peter Parker along.
Oh,
And,
dude, him tied up. It looks
Yeah.
exactly like that cover.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. That's like my iconic Green Goblin issue.
39.
39.
121. Oh, yeah.
121's Punisher, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Nice. I went
That's a pretty good
8.0.
score.
8.0 for Bring on the Bad Guys Green Goblin. Django,
Yeah.
take me away.
All I got left, man, is the first 3 chapters of Dr. Worthless.
You
Which
guys
is
should talk about that.
Did you read it, Roman?
I have not started it yet.
Okay. It's the same team that did the Ed Gein story. Did you hear what Ed Gein did or done or whatever? And it's Harold Schechter and Eric Powell. And so far it's got nice grisly murders. It's got creepy doctors.
Where are there murders in his story?
I don't know how it ties in yet, but we're following this guy named the Werewolf, and it's just this dude who kills a bunch of people. And we also get to hang out with a little boy that murdered children. It's an odd start. The little boy who killed children is one of the people that they blame comic books.
Do you want to maybe give our listeners a heads up about what the heck this guy is for those who might not know?
Yeah, so Dr. Wortham was the guy behind the movement to basically get rid of violence and sexiness in comics. So like he went up against EC Comics and horror comics, and he's the reason that we have the Comics Code Authority. I could probably speak with a little more authority on this if I had finished this book, because this happened a couple of times in comic book history, and I always get those two kind of merged together. But he's one of the guys that sort of hobbled comics for a long time, and I'm really excited to finish this and know a little bit more about everything.
Yeah, it's incredible that Eric Powell is doing the art in this. He did the Goon, wrote and drew the Goon forever, and he did the art in the Ed Gein one, which is just amazing. Roman, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm really excited to read this because I love the Eddie Gein one, and yeah, the whole Dr. Wortham and that whole story. He was a psychologist that, blamed comic books for the juvenile delinquency and the rising criminal element in youth and everything, and pretty much.
And we all know it's video games, not comics.
Yeah,
I would say he had his finger on the pulse. He knew exactly what was going on. Way to go!
Shut down EC, pretty much.
I wish he could have finished his God-given work for sure. I'm definitely going to read it. He's a fascinating person in the world of comics, and I don't know much about his personal life and stuff. So it would be really interesting to read this. So I'm very excited to.
I don't have a score for it yet, obviously, because I'm just about a quarter of the way through, but it's going to be in the 9.5, 10 range.
Okay.
So
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, since that's your end of it, let's tap into a couple things quickly here. What do you think?
All right.
I just want to mention Absolute Green Lantern #4, which I believe the second or third issue, Django, you were like, no, I'm good and I'm out. Is that
I
true?
read this one.
Oh, okay, cool. Get in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is written by Al Ewing, who Roman is a huge fan of. I also dig him quite a bit. Django, I don't know your standing Al Ewing stance, but this has most notably an artist that has a sort of this is my first gig in comics feel.
Yeah.
And it's Janoy Lindsay. I like it quite a bit, but it does remind me of a lot of like deviant art, kind of fan art that you find online. Like there's some particular things about that, kind of like sharp angles and skin and stuff like that. I have enjoyed this series quite a bit so far.
Really?
Yeah. I like it. I like it more than the Flash. Yeah, it's kind of right there with Absolute Superman for me. There's nothing about it that's holding me back. I really like that it's a very different take on the Green Lantern stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And while it has the characters, it seems like it has the ability to move in any direction that it wants to and isn't super beholden to the beats of the main continuity Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I really like Joe. The Abin Sur here is interesting and kind of figuring out what's going on with the color yellow and learning more in this issue about if people are dead, because it seems like he's killing people and he's not. And then I really like the Hal Jordan tied into the Black Hand stuff.
Yeah.
And it does feel to me like each issue's art is getting better. Like it seems like new enough in their career that to me it feels like I'm seeing growth between each issue. The first couple pages, especially from the upper angles looking down on faces, it was a little bit weird, but I think there's other pages and panels that look as good as any main
I'll
artist.
grant you that it's better. I'm still kind of holding a grudge from a couple specific panels from the first issue.
Heck yeah.
Sorry.
Heck yeah. So I'm curious, like Roman specifically, what are you thinking, or Django, as you're on your tail end of the bell curve with your time with it?
I'll give it a 6.5, and I feel like that's being a little bit generous.
Wow.
Not objectively, but for me,
6.5 feels like there's something upsetting you about it.
I don't care about Green Lantern to start with, and I think that to take 4 issues to get to where this book is, you've lost me.
Yeah.
And I want to like it. I like some Al Ewing stuff quite a bit. The art is a real struggle for me.
Yeah.
I've read 4 issues so far, so I couldn't tell you if it comes out on a week like this next time, I might read it again.
Roman, where's your moo cow?
I agree with you. I do like it more than the Absolute Flash, but not as much as Absolute Batman or Wonder Woman or Superman.
Hot take.
I'm not a big fan of the art so far, but I do really like this Hal doing this big goofy black hand in the sky. That's like my favorite panel in the book. So every issue of this, I think I pick it up and thinking, well, why am I reading this? Do I care about this book? And then I read it and I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of like it. I really like how alien Abin Sur is, and how he's so alien that he doesn't know or just doesn't care that he's not communicating well with the humans. He's just like, yeah, whatever. Oh, you guys think I'm killing these other humans?
Yeah.
So that wasn't a surprise. I mean, that's what we figured from the earlier issues.
Yeah, I like that very much. There's nothing about this that I don't like. There's maybe parts that I don't love, but to me, it's better than a lot of comics that I'm reading. I did feel it was gratifying to finally get an issue or like figuring some things out. I do
Yeah.
agree, Django. I think the first 3 issues could have easily been 2 issues, but yeah, I'm actually enjoying the art now. And Green Lantern is a book that I'm not super beholden to the main continuity of, so it's fun to be on the ground level of exploring a whole new thing for it. I gave Absolute Green Lantern number 4 an 8.5.
Nice.
I'll give it a 7.
Nice.
All right.
Um,
That's pretty good. So do we have any other comics to talk about? Because we have some
Yeah.
comments in here too.
yeah, we do. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try and get through a
Yeah,
couple
do
things
it.
really quickly.
Do
Just a
it.
couple X-Men things.
Hit it.
Ultimate Wolverine number 7. This is Chris Condon, everybody. I'm just going to remind us all that Chris Condon is writing this. So that Texas Blood, and then, you know, from the message from the Fallout, like a lot of things that a lot of us are reading. And this is kind of a weird outlier. He's writing this book. And I think that this is going a little bit more under the radar than it should because of the existence of Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men book, which is wonderful in its own right, but it isn't very tied into the world of the Ultimate Universe, and you're not seeing a lot of the X-Men in it. This is the Ultimate X-Men book. The name is a little bit misleading. And in the previous issue, but really in this issue, we get like Wolverine is back with the X-Men. He's been cleaned of the Winter Soldier stuff that was going on. It was really cool to kind of get to re-experience essentially the Weapon X arc from way back in the day, Barry Windsor Smith, but, you know, different, obviously. But in that time, like, get to be exploring a Wolverine origin with the deprogramming of his brain and like being brain, all of that was there. But everything about the world is very, very different. But in here, you know, we've got Beast and Gambit and Omega Red and, you know, a lot of mainstream X-Men folks. And so I really am enjoying this, and I look forward to it each month because it really does feel like the main alternate universe X-Men book that we're getting to explore right now. Roman, are you reading this?
I dropped off after I think 4
Okay.
issues.
Yeah. And then I would say, kind of slightly counter to that, it is worth mentioning because probably the outside of of Captain America, the largest release of the week was X-Men Hellfire Vigil, and this is the first sort of gala type thing in the post-Krakoa era since Hickman has been gone. And this, oh gosh, comic book publishers and editors, throw your credits to the front of the book. In the first 5 pages, please. It was in the final issue of this, and every 5 pages in this is a different writer and artist. And so what that means is that this was very much, unlike previous galas, this was every X-Men book getting to put like 5 pages in here and then kind of move forward. That was really confusing. And I also didn't understand that that was what this book was going to be until I had finished it and got to the end, to the credits page. So it's critical for like readability to get that stuff in people's faces earlier. There's no reason that it should be the final page of a comic. Yeah.
Boy,
It made me really sad that X-Men is not the Krakoa age anymore, and it's not that Hickman thing. What were you going to say, Roman?
Yeah, I agree, man. Not only with your last statement, but yeah, I read this and I didn't know that either until the very last, the credits page. And I got to admit, it's such a big book. I got to admit, I actually started skipping ahead sometimes because I was like, you know, I don't care. And then it all ends with, you know, basically kind of introduction of a new villain team. But the main thrust of the whole thing seemed to be like, oh, yeah, mutants, don't lose hope. We got to keep fighting. Well, yeah, obviously.
And it was just so spread across so many different characters, and nothing had much weight. And there was like a 12-page sequence where you had to read so many written song lyrics that Dazzler was singing that it was like, I hate this. And it was so Taylor Swift.
I only read the first Dazzler lyrics, and after that I skipped all of her reading all of her songs.
I
believe it's pronounced Tay-Tay.
Tay-Tay. Dazzler. 51 pages. And yeah, it there was such a united vision and coherent feel and things to be on board about in like the X-Men Krakoan era that Hickman was championing. And this, it feels like we have gone back to the kind of divided state where there's a lot of things going on and not a lot of like hive mind mentality about what you're working towards. So, you know, that's one of the reasons I'm grateful for Ultimate X-Men existing. But yeah, this was a amuse-bouche for the next little chunk of X-Men things. And I bet every one of these stories is more enjoyable when you're actually reading that book and not kind of linking them together in an oversized book that isn't clear what it is. So for me, I gave the X-Men Hellfire Vigil a 7, and I gave Ultimate Wolverine #7 an 8.5.
Oh, wow. Cool. I think I gave the, is it called Hellfire Vigil? That's what it's called?
Yeah.
I'm going to give that. I haven't done one of these in a while, but I'm going to give that a 5.
Yeah. Tear them down.
Django, your lips are moving, but I'm not hearing anything.
It's true.
I didn't even make something to display for a 5. I don't know how much I've
Oh.
tried to interrupt you guys, and you didn't hear it.
Yeah. Been muted for a bit.
It's cool.
Okay.
Is that
Well,
our
listen,
comics?
that was the comics that we talked about this week, or read this week. There were more, but you know, I think this week was sort of the speed bump in a parking lot that you're driving through, where we've been getting these huge books and these amazing scores and enormous weeks, and you got to have some ability to kind of pause and take a breath. And you know, I brought home 10 books this week, which was less than half of what I brought home last week.
Well, speaking of that, we have a comment here from our friend Brian Garside. Brian,
I
what is
love
going
that,
on with your...
man.
That is a crazy icon of you.
Yeah, it's a younger Brian.
I've never seen that picture. I love it. So Brian asks, hey fellas, have the last 2 weeks felt super small to you as well? Last week and this week coming up are super tiny. Some real good books coming out this week, though. Beneath the Trees, Rites of Spring, for example.
Cool.
And I think we should answer that question, but I think that we should do it with Brian Garside
Whoa.
himself.
Brian, so this is what listeners and viewers can look forward to on the Perfectly Acceptable Podcast video edition, the era of 400s. Just video pop-ins from people that we know and love. For those listening at home not seeing this, we've just been surprised, love bombed by one of our favorite people in the world, Brian Garside. Hey, buddy.
It's me. Hey, how's it going?
Good. Man, you're looking like I'm worried if you're eating enough food.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, you're
But
looking
it's okay.
Nourishment's important.
Oh, thank you.
Probably fine.
So wait, you had a small
Probably-
stack last week?
Oh, it was so small. Like I think I only brought like 4 comics home last
Are
week.
you reading Ask
wow.
Eve?
No.
Assorted Crisis Events.
Oh yeah. That was last week though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
a week
Oh,
ago.
he's talking about
Right.
this week.
I'm talking
that we're
this week
talking
and the
about.
week coming
And
up.
Oh,
next week.
Sorry.
Brian,
Yeah,
Brian,
no,
Brian.
like last week was amazing. It was
Brian, if I
Huge
told you
amount
you have something on your cheek, which cheek would you try to brush off? Oh, you do them both. Smart man.
Okay, so you have
Always.
peered into the future, and you're
Yeah,
telling
'cause
us
I-
that next week is a sort of small week.
Yeah, I got all that stuff on Friday. So when I got back from vacation, it was all sitting there, and it was like 6 boxes total. And
Yeah.
normally I get like 10 boxes.
I
And
should. Okay, well, that's a great point. Listen, listeners and viewers at home, we get Roman and Brian in the same space together, and I love that because they haven't seen each other as much as we've seen Brian and Roman.
Good to see you, Brian.
Brian has developed an incredible subscription management bit of software for comic stores across the world, and
It's called Comic Hub.
it's called Manage Comics, and it's awesome. But while we were building the Comics Place Presents, the perfectly acceptable point of sale system, Brian was also developing Manage Comics and had been going it for a while. So he's a good friend of ours, but he's been deeply involved in the comic book industry and sort of managing subscriptions and helping stores do that very important part of comics. And then more recently, in the last 6 months, took over a comic store, just absorbed it into his heart, and has been handling all the comic book ordering and processing and distribution for a whole set of customers for it, which is amazing. So Brian gets to live in 2 times at once.
Now and next week.
It's
Yeah.
killing me. Yeah.
And also FOC and also initial order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just working on
Yeah.
FOCs just now.
Nice.
And yeah, they're
You
even
got the-
light. Like this FOC for Lunar is super like it's not a lot of huge titles.
Yeah.
Well, not to go too deep into the industry, but things.
Yeah,
are
yeah,
little
that's a different
chaotic, so
podcast.
I'm
That's a
sure.
different
I'm
podcast.
sure there's a reason. The reason I wanted to bring Brian on though was because he mentioned that there's not much out this week and next week, and I know that looking at our stats right now, we have upwards of 4 people watching.
Oh
And
my
I'm
god.
sure some of them are industry heavy hitters, and I just
I'm a
wanted
little-
to remind them
Wow, I should tie my hair back or something.
you don't have to take a week off just because it's a 5th week. You could just publish 13 of a comic in a year, and also annuals. There's no person on the planet anymore that thinks that Batman comes out on the first Wednesday and Detective comes out on the third Wednesday. It's okay to not give stores
Django,
1/8 of their sales
let's
every 3 months.
explain to our listeners what you're talking about. Many comic books release
Empathy.
like 12 issues a year and an annual or something weird. But what it means is that we get a lot of 5th weeks where, like, because there's 5 weeks in a month, previously they were organizing things like, okay, on the first week of a month, these come out, and the third week, these come out. And then when the occasional month that has 5 Wednesdays would come out, there would be really bare bones weeks of comics. And that's kind of what we're experiencing right now, and is something that Django and I have been talking to people, and Brian, I'm sure, at our publishers, but most famously at a very clandestine exclusive meeting with Brian, Django, and I, and a couple other people at DC.
I forgot.
Very serious meeting. Django raised his hand and they called on Django, and they were like looking at us for information,
Something
help.
smart.
And Django just said, "Why are 5th weeks?
Well,
And-
5th weeks.
Why are 5th weeks?" Yeah, just
We won't have to worry about getting invited back to one of those. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I just said make everything like Chips at ZCN.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
I said over and over again. Hey, have you guys seen this yet?
No, I haven't
No,
cracked
is
our
it
boxes.
Next week,
It's
huh?
a galley copy of Absolute
Oh,
Batman.
Wow.
It's really
nice.
nice.
is it a paperback or a hardback?
It's just paperback, but it
Okay.
was free, and you get to like
Huh.
see what it's going to look like. And they're
been
saying
wanting to
they're
read
gonna
that.
do a massive print advertising campaign, promotion in DC print and digital comics. So yeah, it
Nice.
looks like they're gonna get behind this thing. This
That's-
this Absolute stuff might have legs, guys.
Yeah.
I love that they have solicited and made the release dates the same day, which they've been moving towards. But for all of the Absolute books,
Yeah.
the paperback and hardcover comes out on the same day, which is
Oh wow.
perfect.
Yeah. That's Thank
Yeah,
you.
they've done that with everything, and I kind of question some of it. I don't. Think
Oh
they
man,
do with some
for
of
the
things.
last 10 years of my ordering, it's been solicit a hardcover and order it, and then release the paperback like 4 months later, like
Yeah,
a punishing amount of time later. And in the last like 2 years, we've developed like 2 very serious, dedicated people that get the hardcovers and the paperbacks. And because of releasing at the same date, that duality exists. People can actually have a preference and not be governed by their desire to read
FOMO.
it quickly.
Yeah, it makes sense.
FOMO.
Have you guys seen this? This came
Yeah.
out. They dropped it a few weeks ago. I think it's not out officially for a few
It's
more
not.
weeks.
Yeah.
Spectators.
It's so good.
What
Brian
is that?
Cavon,
And Nico
Nico Henrichon.
Henrichon. Yeah.
Spectators. It's like Grimm meets Carmen, but painted.
Carmen, the Christian musician.
No, Carmen. What's his name? That it was
The
like
musical?
it was about the dead people.
Carmen San Diego.
Just like last year, Karmen.
Oh yeah. Guillaume March. Yeah.
Oh,
March. Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
Nice.
oh.
This is a lot like those two books,
Nice.
and
Wow.
I really really enjoyed this. So if you haven't taken a look at it yet, give it a good shot because it's really pretty. I'd flip through it, but there's a lot of NSFW content that we
Ooh, yeah,
get
there
you
is.
on
We're-
YouTube very quickly.
We're selling out. We're on YouTube and Facebook now. We don't even. We're not. I'm not allowed to make fart jokes anymore.
Django,
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
artist that did that Meet the Scrolls series right before the pandemic
Oh.
that we really liked.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, it-
and they
like-
also did some stuff with X-Men and stuff, but I'm a
Awesome.
big fan of their
It's
art.
just beautiful. Like it's just
Wow.
gorgeous watercolor stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I read the beginning of the new Walking Dead, the Tilly Walden Walking Dead book.
Yeah, Clementine.
Also really good.
Yeah.
Really good. The last
Clementine.
one, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, because on this new live streaming thing, I can see how many minutes we are into this, and I can tell that we've gone a little overboard, my friends.
Extra special and saucy.
William Elmer says, if there are no fart jokes, then I'm out. There were at the beginning. There's been farts. Farts are important, Will. Not as important as Brian Garside, who is like
Aw.
the best thing in the world, and I'm just really glad to see him. But Brian, make sure you're eating enough, buddy.
I'm
Uh,
gonna make you
I mean,
business cards that say more important than farts.
more important than farts. We would love to have anybody reach out to us with an email or voicemail. You can do that by sending an email to Jeff at the Comics Place. That's only for 3 weeks more. So like that, really get it. Add me to your contacts.
I've got
now.
I got a short list of options.
Yeah.
Email Comics Place presents a perfectly acceptable podcast
Ooh, I
at
don't like that.
gmail.com.
That's
You
really
like that?
bad. No, I really
Well, we
don't
could
like
put capital letters for the words.
You could also go with like vidcast at the Comics Place.
I would
Ooh.
100%
podcast.com.
choose like the 5 first possibilities that Brian puts out there over whatever you've spent months working on.
You've given him power.
I like him. So get us those emails and voicemails, Jeff at thecomicsplace.com. I'm a little nervous because I would have said like, I hope next week's a stack year stack, but Brian Garside just opened a portal that has to pass through limbo in order for me to see the next week. And it sounds like maybe we're going to find some gems. If not, I'm going to read some graphic novels.
Yeah, we'll put some
There's
graphic
some good
novels in
stuff.
there.
Yeah.
No, there's some good stuff next week, but
Okay,
it's not quantity. It's
Okay.
definitely quality.
Okay.
You know
All right.
what? I've heard that somewhere before.
Craig Mimi Bear.
There you go.
Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was an experiment, test run. We were live streaming this on Facebook, and the video will be cached somewhere that I'm sure I don't know, for people to be able to watch after the fact. You can obviously always get a hold of us at Comics Place Presents, the Perfectly Acceptable Podcast, on your podcast apps, or do this new video thing. Because now that I realize that we're going to be seen, I'll do my makeup, I'll make
Mhm.
sure that I'll make sure I'm got all these
There's-
good jokes for you.
I put on a shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Roman, as everyone who's been listening knows, it's usually just a hairy mat of dried ice cream
Yep.
there.
Yep.
So at
He's got
some
the
point,
sweetest
though,
chest in town. Oh, we just lost YouTube.
maybe episode
So disturbing.
450 will unveil his Captain America shield, his star. Yeah.
There's a new thing we have to do at the end here, and then I think we're allowed to get out. And it sucks. It sucks because we're just going to turn this into an audio podcast. But like and subscribe and hit the bell. Is that the thing?
Mm.
Is it a
Smash
bell?
the button.
Smash the
button.
smash the burger.
Will says
Yep.
if there are shirts on Roman, then I'm out. So farts and topless Romans are
Okay.
what it needs. Okay, but I feel like in order for us to really press that point, we should be able to say like where they could find. So the like and the bell, that's like YouTube, right?
I think so.
So then
Yep.
there's going to be a YouTube channel or feed that these are going up to.
Yeah.
Is it
Search
the-
for the Comics Place. I don't know I don't know. Search for the Comics Place. It'll also be on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
For the Comics Place. We'll probably try to stick it on some sort of official Comics Place Presents podcast
Yeah.
page.
And
Maybe,
in
I don't know.
And in
We'll
those
see.
situations, like, subscribe for sure.
Yeah.
And
Review.
don't promise things that you can't sustain. But I do think moving forward, there will be a more regular time with which these are recorded.
Ah, no way.
And
way.
you'll at least be able to assume that it's Friday or Saturday. But this week, we're doing it on Sunday.
Yeah,
And that's
so
just
that-
how it goes.
Next
You know
week it's
what?
going to be on
No
Wednesday.
matter which day you do, it's on time.
I
On
love
time
it.
every week.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my god.
Brian, thanks so
It's
much
a
for
sliding
popping
timescale.
by. Oh yeah, Captain America style. Thanks for coming by, Brian. We
My
love
pleasure.
you.
Thanks for letting me in.
You're in my heart and thoughts all the time. Roman and Django, you're just filling my eyes all the time. But until next week, this was a tight 1 hour and 26 minutes. I'll
welcome,
see you next
world.
week for episode 398. I was Jeff.
I was Django.
I was Roman.
Why around here?
And that was Brian.
And I was wondering.
Yeah.